What is going on, everyone? I am Dane Peterson, and I am here to give you some free and basic real estate research tips using your local property appraiser website. So right now we're standing right outside of my local property appraiser building. But the great thing is that nowadays you can access most, if not all, of this information right from the internet. But first things first, what is the property appraiser and what is it that they do? To keep it simple, they're your local authority that assigns and determines values for your property based on improvements and your property's characteristics. Those values are then used to calculate property taxes. As a landlord, rehabber, and realtor, I use these websites daily because of the amount of public information that you can get from them. And that's exactly what I plan to show you. So if you get any value from this video, please smash that like button, hit that subscribe button down below. Now let's jump online and show you exactly how easy this information is to get. All right, everyone, so let's get into the Palm Beach County discussion here, and we're going to be talking about that property appraiser website. And the reason I am sitting here on the Wikipedia page is because this is a good place to start if you are new to a county or an area and you're coming in from the point of view as a real estate investor and you need to get to know an area. But even if you are familiar with Palm Beach County, there's probably a few things you'd be able to learn on this website, Wikipedia, that you might not already know. And I always like to get straight into the demographics area. One of the first things I like to look at in a newer area I might be looking at a property in is just the historical population. So is the population going up? Is it going down? Is it staying around the same? I think that's important to know. Maybe you want to own rentals in an area, and maybe you don't want to be buying rentals in an area where you see a declining population or a lot of companies leaving that area. Another interesting thing to look at is going to be your median income. So looking at, what the general income salary is going to be for people that are living in that area might help you decide if there's a certain size house you want to be focusing on. Maybe when you see that the median income is $35,000, you might want to focus on 2-bedroom, 1-bath houses or 3-bedroom, 2-bath houses. So communities. The reason I'm going into communities is we're about to drill into the property appraiser site and how to navigate through the site. So as we talk about Palm Beach County today, we're talking about cities like West Palm Beach, Green Acres, Atlantis, Lake Worth, Palm Beach Gardens, Belle Glade, Delray Beach, Boca Raton. Those are probably going to be some of the bigger city names that you know and you're familiar with in the Palm Beach County area. So the next thing we're going to do is we want to go to the Palm Beach County Property Appraiser. And if we were in Google doing this, that probably would have been one of the first results that started to pop right up. I'm going to show you how we search for this on Google because that is usually what I'm using. So we're going to type that in again. We're going to type in Palm Beach County. And before I even get to county, you can see that's one of the search results right there. And it looks like my head is blocking some of the results here. But all we care about is this very first link, which, folks, links will be in the description, so make sure you check that out. I'm going to put these links as of August 2023, so of course things like that can change, but I will put the property appraiser link. I'll give you the Wikipedia link. I'll give you some of the tax authority website links as well. All right, so all these sites are relatively similar, but they all have their own little nuances and differences, so let's drill right in. What we're going to do is we're just going to take a quick glance at this site. Always look at the navigation bar. So on this site, that's right here across the top. What we're wanting to do is some searches. I'm also going to look on the left-hand side where you can see they have these quick links. Good chance that quick links are usually going to have what you like the most requested items on their site. And you can see here for ours, tangible personal property e-file. So I'm just gonna, let's see. So we have our searches. You don't have right here property appraiser public access, search by owner name, last name, or address. So it looks like you can search for it right from their homepage, which is interesting. Usually you have to go into the actual search part of their property appraiser site, but it looks like they keep theirs right on the front here, which is pretty neat. These look like they might have some good information if you ever want to get some data, do a little extra research. Definitely check out the property appraiser site for that reason. All right, so you can see we do have a drop down here, real property or tangible personal property, and we can do our search right here. So let's do this. Let's identify a Let's identify a property that we want to do some research on. What we're going to do here is we'll just type in Palm Beach County And the reason I like to do that is they're going to put a outline around the entire county of Palm Beach. Let's just click on for sale. And there you go. You can see we got this outline. It reaches all the way over here to the west for Lake Okeechobee. And you can see a good portion of Palm Beach County is rural area. Rural. Let's all say that word together. Rural. Man, that's a tough one. All right. What we're going to do here is we know West Palm Beach, the city, it is the largest populated area in Palm Beach County. But let's zoom in. We're going to just randomly pick one of these properties that's for sale. I like this $500,000 price point. Let's see. We got ourselves a 2-bedroom there. I'd like to make sure it's a house and it's not a condo or like we just clicked on, of course. Just because those are easier to search, you're going to get a lot more data. Sometimes they will group condominium data into one large piece of statistical data. So when you're trying to get the actual square footage, it might be showing the square footage of the entire building versus the unit. So I don't want to do that. But I guess just in that area, that's a lot of what we're dealing with. Here's some 4 million. Woo, some nice places. All right, here we go. I like this house because it looks like it's a house that possibly just got rehabbed. And when I say rehabbed, I mean that they bought the property. They did a little bit of renovating, remodeling, whatever you want to call it. Remodeling is usually when you're moving walls around and changing the actual layout of a home. Rehab is usually when you just go in and you do a lot of the cosmetics. And just when I quickly glance at these photos, it looks nice and clean, like it got some fresh paint and maybe even some new windows, pavers, and mulch. I'm gonna call this a rehab. Okay, so it's listed for $345,000. The reason I'm gonna sit on this page for a second is I just wanna show you that property appraiser data is more important than Zillow's data. Zillow is showing you the bedroom, bathroom count, the total square footage, which would be your living square footage, which is under air. It's gonna give you a zestimate on the price, which I wanna focus on the specs of the home. That's what I'm coming to the property appraiser site to do, is verify information on this property and see if it's what it says it is in the listing that I'm looking at. For instance, if I'm on Zillow and I see this information right here, we want to verify that this is correct if we're interested in pursuing this house. It's going to help us make sure that they price the home right. It's going to help us make sure that, the taxes are being calculated right. And I say that because if you have a 2-bedroom house and it's actually a 1-bedroom house, theoretically, you should be paying a little bit less in taxes because that house should probably be getting assessed with a different market value. So let's go look up 1030 Carver Avenue. I like this address. It'll be an easy one for us to remember as we go through doing some of this. So let's type in 1030, and I'm typing it in. I don't want to just paste that whole address because these searches can be picky sometimes. So I like to just start typing it in. And a lot of the sites nowadays are automatically finding these properties the more you fill in. So I've clicked on Carver Avenue that was on the drop down right there. I'm gonna hit search. We're gonna wait for this page to load, and it's gonna bring us into the actual property record. I'm not crazy about all the colors on this website. So we still have our navigation bar up top. We still have a search bar on top, so we can just search straight again right from this page without having to go back, which is nice. And you're going to see here we have our buttons at the top, classic PAPA, which I'm guessing that's just the classic look. That's what they're saying, the look of the site, not important. My property appraiser Palm Beach. I'm trying to think what PAPA could be standing for. Palm Beach County Property Appraiser. Maybe property appraiser, property appraiser? Let's move on. Print this page. I'm clicking on that because I want you to see if you are in a rush, if you just need to get some quick information for a client, for yourself, load up the website, print this record, or save it as an Adobe file, not an Adobe file, a PDF file, and then move on to your next property. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna close this window. You can see right here, they have an option just to quickly save it as a PDF, but they also have a print property summary. So it's gonna be a lot less information usually is gonna pop up on here. What I like about this is it's actually giving us a sketch. It's letting us know about the material of the house. It's giving us all the information that we need. And if we wanna compare that to the print this page, you can see here, the print this page is doing just that. It's printing what we see. And you can see down here, it ends with the taxes. Well, if we close this out, so we'll go back over and you can see that print property summary is actually giving us a little bit more information than the print this page. The print this page is exactly what we're looking at right here, except it did not come with this section right here, the property information. I don't know why, but you can see here, it has some of that property information, but it's not all the full information that we got on this one right here. Two different sheets, take note of that. That's something that's important. I will say, so we're gonna close these out. And then our last one across the top here is our 2023 proposed notice. That's going to be referencing our taxes, which they are starting to send these out right now, at least in my county of Sarasota. And then you have a bunch of options up top here. And what we will do is we will get into these as we navigate down through the page. So you can see here, property detail is right there, owner information. It's just bringing us quickly to those sections below rather than having to scroll. That's all that's doing. But up here at the property detail, let's start from the top of this section and work our way down. You have the actual property address, so just confirm that that's what you're supposed to be looking at. There is a map. We'll click on that in a second. It's showing us that it's the West Palm Beach municipality. Our parcel number is used to reference these properties. That can be used, I'm gonna get my face out of the way here. That can be used on contracts. It can be used with the title company. It can be used to identify the property when you're looking for permits or when you're looking for the property tax information. So that's a good number. It can be a little bit easier to reference that sometimes than a weird address. Subdivision is Lake Avenue added to West Palm Beach IN. You know, there's a bunch of acronyms a lot of times when you're looking at surveys, subdivision names, legal descriptions, and you'll continue to see that as we move on. This is just telling us where in the official records this can be located, this record. The last sale date, July of last year, which leads me to think that this is a property that was rehabbed like we were talking about, but 1 year to do that seems like a long time. Down here, owner information. So let's move over within this same section and click on show full map. And I do like when links bring you to a brand new page or tab that it loads up so that you do still have your information loaded if you want to hop back over there quickly. But I love the maps on Property Appraiser websites. They all function a little bit differently, but they give you a general idea of the outline around your property. Take it as a grain of salt. A survey is what you truly want to accept because they're coming out and they're doing an actual measurement based on rods in the ground. So the one thing I'm quickly noticing, I just wanted to try clicking on the property right next to this property to see if it would do that, and it does, which is really neat. That means you can scroll around on this map and you can just quickly navigate into the records of other properties. This is the one we're dealing with though, and you can see over here it says server IP address could not be found. So I don't know if that's an issue with my browser or if that is an issue with the Palm Beach County website right now. And what we'll do is we'll double check this. We'll load up this record in a different browser. We'll use a Chrome browser and we'll see if this exact same thing happens. Okay, so we are gonna go back into the map and we're gonna do this. We're not on an incognito browser or a private browser because it was actually giving us a few limitations. So you can see we're on our record card. We're still in our Brave browser, and now the map is showing up over here. Neat thing is you can actually drag this map around a little bit. You're not constrained to just it on top of your property, which usually that's the way it is. We can click on the show full map. It loads up our map right here with our property, and it gives us a bunch of that information on the fly within the map. I think that is so cool because that's awesome, useful information that you can get within this map by quickly clicking on a property, because this map allows you to navigate instantly. So you can see I just clicked on another property 3 parcels down. It brings up the location. It gives me that parcel number. It gives me some previous sales information. So maybe if I'm trying to find some recent homes that sold to compare to this one, I could just start clicking around and quickly look to see when the last sale occurred. So I like this map. These maps can offer you a lot of neat information. You really just got to drill into what some of the layers and filters are. And what I mean by that is if we look at the page over here in the top left-hand corner, you can see here where we can do our searching for properties straight from the map. So if you like doing this, rather than going straight to the Property Appraiser website, you could just link yourself right to the map if that's how you want to do your searches. But over here on the left-hand side, you can see how it says layers. And I just knew that's what it would be. I've used these maps enough to know, but this is really neat. And I'm starting to see this more and more on these websites, and that's that you can update what the image looks like on these maps. So you can see here, it has both of these checked. I don't know why there's two checked, but I'm gonna uncheck one of them. I'm gonna check the 2023 and uncheck 22, and let's see if it loads up the map for this area here. It just shows you the progression and how good these satellite images have gotten over the years. If you go back and you click on something like 2008, they're usually all pretty fuzzy. I mean, hey, it still gave you a rough idea, and then just as you move up in the years, it's so crazy to see how much better these have gotten. But you can see here on the layers on this top section here, right now it's showing us road names, roads. It makes the map work quicker and function better, but you can actually have it show you a whole bunch of more information on here. And I think that's interesting that it's got a homestead legend. So why is a homestead legend any good? Well, because when you see homestead, you know that's somebody that's living in the property most likely, and they're getting a homestead exemption on their property taxes. So that's somebody living in that house. So if I want to maybe send a bunch of marketing or do some prospecting, find myself some leads of people that might be interested in selling their home, well, there's two ways to look at it. Maybe I want to approach some people that have lived in their homes for a long time in their homestead, or maybe I'd rather look at some of these other properties where they don't live in the property and it's a second home, it's an investment property. Who knows what the use of that property is, but there might be a little bit more motivation for that person to sell that property. Again, I'm looking at this as an investor and for opportunities. So that's the reason I'm saying that. But you can close out of layers. It's got a lot of different options. You can see here there's some different tools you can do if you want to tweak the settings, but really you don't have to mess with any of that. You can also there's a print, so you can actually print the screen, and that's really the most that you're going to get out of this map. Sometimes the layers though, you would be surprised to see how many different things you can really get to show on layers. I've had it show me as much as zip codes over sections of the town, so that's pretty neat, and other things like that are going to be pretty useful. So the only other thing within the property detail section that I'm going to show is this nearby sale search. I do like that because that leads me to believe they're going to give us a bunch of data of recent properties that have sold around the one I'm interested in. And you can see here, it's showing us that the circle that's around it right now is a 1/8 mile vicinity. We got a bunch of other little highlighted properties. I'm thinking those might be ones that is sold, but they're just not part of this 1/8 mile. So let's pump it out to a 1/2 mile and see if, like the one my mouse is on right here, well, let's see if it updates that first of all. Maybe I have to hit search again. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so, well, actually, no. Oh, those are houses with blue tarps on them. Silly Dane. All right, so you can see here, it's got all this data. It throws the data down here. And the reason I like this is because you're getting sales that might not have been recorded through the MLS. So if you're working with a real estate agent and they're comping out a property for you, they're coming up with the value of a property you're interested in, they want to see if it's priced right, this could be more useful than strictly just the MLS. You want to look at the comps you see that were sold on the MLS, but it can also be good to go check and see if you have any sales that might support the price that might not have shown up on the MLS. Maybe it was two family members that came to an agreement and they just did that deal direct buyer to seller. There was no agents, there was no realtor association or local real estate group that was involved. So it was not recorded into those systems, but it would still be showing up on the actual property appraiser's information. So I think that's awesome information. It's a good way to find, as an investor, properties that sold at a discount too, like fixer-upper properties in not as good a shape. A lot of those properties tend to change hands more often than not between a buyer and a seller direct, and those being done off market. So this is really neat. I think the nearby sales is a really neat tool, and theirs looks better than a lot of the other ones I've seen. So that's really nice. Under owner information, the only thing right here in this section is a change of address, and that's what I thought it would be. It's a form if you do need to change any of the information that's being currently reported. I did have to back up to get back over here. So we can see the owner name, Jefferson Hernandez. Usually you have that last name first. their mailing address, which is a different address than the property address, which means this is an absentee owner. That's what absentee owner means. It means they do not live at the actual property address that you're looking at or interested in, which means they might be more interested in selling, but we know they are because they're on Zillow. Down here we have sales information. This is going back into the early 2000s. It might go back a little further than that, at least on this record though. It's only showing us back to 03. And my assumption would be that might be the age of the home. I could be wrong though. And here it gives us a little note that sales don't appear in the database until 1 to 3 weeks after the closing date. No exemption information, which is common when you have somebody that is a absentee owner. All right, for exemption information, this portability calculator is just a tool for people to use that are moving. You can see right here, help you estimate how much you'd benefit should you think about moving and transferring your assessment cap. So it's nice to have a calculator like that. It is helpful, and there's a little disclaimer here. It gives you a little bit more information about exactly what they're talking about and how you can move some of the value of a current home over to the new property. So it's nice that they actually have a calculator like that showing. You'd always want to, talk with your tax accountant, your tax advisor, and also just verify that figure with the property appraiser office directly, just to make sure that's accurate if it's that important to you. Down here, property information. These are one of the more important things to me. And the reason is we wanted to talk about how we want to make sure that what we saw on Zillow, which was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, 777 square foot home, matches up with the same thing we see here on the property appraiser. And just by quick glance, it does. But let's just talk about the information here and what's important. You can see this section right here is giving us what that square footage is. The total square footage is 987. Under air is 777. So that difference could be, for instance, a garage, a carport, maybe a lanai or a porch area that it's covered, but it's unfinished in the sense that you don't have air conditioning going into those areas. So they're just called under. It's just part of your total square footage. Below that, you can see the number of units, talks about how many buildings are on the property. There's that total square footage again. This is the lot size, 0.08 acres. We have a property use code, which is what's identifying the type of property this is. It's labeling it as a single family home. And these codes right here are codes that will be used on Excel sheets or database files that the county uses to help reference what type of property it is. It's also nice if you're pulling any data from those reports, once you understand what codes are what, and they'll have a legend or a directory that lists those out, you'll be able to look at that exact type of property you're interested in, whether that's a multifamily, commercial property, that sort of thing. And same thing goes for zoning. It's that same idea. Like there's your code right there. And then you can see here it talks about what type of single family it is. It's high density. Right here, going back up to the number of units and how it shows 1, it says view building details. If we click on that, it gives us similar information that we saw when we went to do that print at the very beginning. All great information. It's giving us the year built. It's telling us the exterior wall has wood siding, heat type, heat fuel, none, bedrooms, full baths. It lists out the half baths. Information you're going to see on these other sections, it's just giving it on detailed report. Again, you can see we got a lot of that same information over here that we're going to start going down and covering. Age of the home is important. We were talking about that last sale date that was reported was 2003, but you can see houses from 1960, so we know there are records prior to 03. It gives us information about the roof, interior walls, floor types, stories. And you see a lot of these property appraiser sites, you're going to get this basic information, and sometimes they might go even further and give you a little bit other information as well. As we keep moving down here, we have appraisals. I'm not going to, and just going back up real quick, I'm not going to click on links where it's going and taking us to where we need to make changes. I think that's kind of obvious what you're going to use that for. So appraisal right here, we have improvement value, land value, total market value. And this total market value is important because this is the figure that is used to come up with what your taxes are. So you can see what the value of this property has done over the years, and you can see how much of a jump we had just from 22 to 23 and even 21 to 22. And you can see this red is matching up with this red right P, preliminary. So this is an assumptive market value right here. But the one difference I wanted to show you here, and you can see there's a whole bunch of values showing up on the bottom part of this screen right here. So these first two columns and rows with all this information, you have market value and you have taxable value. And those are two different things. The market value is going to be the value that's put on your property. When you see taxable and assessed value, those are the values taking out exemptions, and then that number is going to be what the taxes are based on. Our owner here, he does not have any exemptions, so it's that flat 148. But let's just say he had a $50,000 homestead exemption. Well, what you would see is you would see that exemption amount listed here, and then you would see this taxable value is less that amount, and then that's what you pay your taxes on. So it's very important. If you qualify for any certain exemptions, there's a lot of different reasons, and I don't know if they're all the same in all different counties. You have different things that are going to allow you to get an exemption, but the most primary one that is everywhere is a homestead exemption, and that's the exemption, the discount you get for it being your primary residence. And then down here, we have our actual taxes listed, and this is showing you what those taxes have been in the past all the way to current, which is $3,300. And I see I'm in the way there. I'm sorry about that. This is preliminary, so this number could change, but it is really important to look at this number right here and then see what it jumped to, because when you sell a property and there is a major jump in the market value of the home, you got to remember that new owner is going to be paying the market value that gets re-looked at when a house sells. So sometimes when you see these small increases, like from 19 to 20, there was only a $2,000 change, $3,000 change going up a year. You notice when it bumped up, it started to bump up, our market was going up, but at the same time, a sale happened back in 2022, and we're getting that new reflection now. So whenever these properties sell, if you go and see that somebody had $1,200 in taxes, 5 years ago, and now you're buying the house in 2023, don't be shocked when you see a, 2 to 3, 4 times increase in what your taxes are. So take note of that. Down here, we got a couple other little links that are pretty nice. We have a property tax calculator, so that's pretty awesome. We could go throw in the sales price and they're going to tell us what they think these taxes are. That's kind of insane to see what that proposed tax amount of $7,400 is. I don't know if they're coming up with that as a market assessed value tax amount or not, because you would think that the assessed value would change when this sells, and let's just say it goes up to $200,000, $4,400. That does sound maybe a little bit more realistic. And do you plan? Look at that. It would drop your taxes. What is that? About 25% when you homestead that. So that's pretty nice, but that's just based on the values. We'll close that out. Our property tax detail gives us the breakdown of where all these taxes are coming from. It gives you the millage rate. And again, they're doing the math based on your taxable value to come up with all of those. So you can see how as soon as you drop this, all these are going to drop quite a bit as well. So you could print that out if that's important to you. This link right here is going to bring us straight to the tax collector site. Tax collector sites can give you some good information. As an investor, I would say the biggest piece of information you're going to get from a tax collector site is just seeing that they paid their taxes, right? Because if we see that somebody hasn't paid their taxes, that could be an opportunity. If we see they haven't paid their taxes for 2 years, now that's a real opportunity. So this page right here, you can come straight to their tax assessor site without going through the property appraiser. Again, we'll throw this link in the description so you can see that one there. But it takes us straight to the property that we're interested in when we access it from the property appraiser site, and that's why I like to click on it through that way. Otherwise, if you went and did a new search, you're either just going to need the address, or again, that parcel detail number is a nice quick way for you to search for these properties as well. But you can see here, it's going to give us just some basic information. If I'm creating a file for a property, this is a page that I would just print this page so I have a record of it, so I could just see what the last tax bill was. And you can see right here, total due is $397. That is a weird amount to be due. So it might just be fractional. Maybe something got reassessed and not reassessed, but maybe something didn't get fully paid at closing. So there is a balance due. Then you can drop down here and you can just see how all your other bills had been paid. And then you can also get information for those prior taxes as well. So you can see here, we can go back in, we can see what those old millage rates were, what the old assessed value was, and how that got us to our current taxes. Close that page out. And now what I want to do is I'm going to do a quick rundown of the permitting website, and we're going to search for this for West Palm Beach, and we're going to use it for this property here, and we're going to go see if this person happened to pull any permits for this property through their renovation. But outside of the property appraiser site, you have permitting websites, you have code enforcement, and I like looking at this because if you see here, this gives us a list of all the towns, cities, and even villages that are part of the Palm Beach County area. And the biggest one is West Palm Beach. It's the one that's in bold right there, number 15. If you see right up here, it said the largest city and county seat is West Palm Beach, and it gives us that population. What's important about this list is if I were going to do some permit searching for a specific property, depending on where it's located, you might have a different jurisdiction that's handling the website and all the record keeping for that area. For instance, West Palm Beach, the city, I'm just going to assume that the city has its own permitting site that's going to be different than the county. I make note of that before we get into all of this because sometimes you're going to go to a property appraiser site or another record site and you're going to type in an address and you're not going to get a result. And maybe you can't find that with the person or the address. And then you start to realize, you know what, maybe I'm just looking at the wrong place. Maybe I need to be looking at a different permit site. And that's usually what the problem is if you're not able to find something pretty quickly. So just take note of that. All right, so I've hopped over to Google. I'm gonna just type in West Palm Beach permitting search or permitting right into Google. And we're gonna see if we can get right over into the city and to see their record. So I always like to just check out what these first couple links are. You can see here, this one says City of West Palm Beach, eGov permits records. To me, that looks like the one I'd want to click on. This one is just westpalmbeach.org. You can see those are two completely different sites. I have a feeling we can get to the records through here, but let's start with this permit records. And it's got Florida listed. One thing I always like to check, obviously you have cities and areas, counties that might be the same in different states. So just always make sure you're dealing with the right one. I don't think there's too many West Palm Beaches though. But you can see here, permit status is what this search is talking about. Permit number, type, property ID, street number, street name. So for this one, let's put in the 1030 Carver. And it says, do not enter the street direction or suffix. So that should be all we need to search. And here we go. It looks like it did find our property, which lets us know that we were in the city limits. The problem is if you do a search and you don't get results, it's not always necessarily because you're not in the correct county or permit site. It might just be because they don't have any permit records. If you do your searching and you're not seeing anything, but you're confident you're in the right area, it might just be that you don't have any actual permits. We have an expired and a closed one showing. It doesn't give us much information, it looks like, until we actually click into one of these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the permit number for this electric meter permit that was closed out, and that was done by US Bank. So that was who did the permit at the time. So if we look at when that was back in 2015, and it looks like across the top here there's just some other links, but that's not going to be related to the permits we're looking at. We would want to look at these little links right here. You can tell their site's not that great, but it is giving us the information we need. We could click on plan reviews. There's nothing showing there. It does show that there was an inspection done. It looks like they have some notes as well, so you can see if I hover over that 6, we can click into that and it actually gives us some information about what happened during that inspection. I'm just going to go back. I'm using my mouse button to do that. That's why you didn't see me click on anything. We'll click on fees. You can see what fees there were for this permit, who the contractor was that was attached to it. See right here, general contractor. It looks like owner contractor was the bank. So the bank pulled the permit themselves. And then when I click on all, that's just going to give us all that information. So if you want to avoid just kind of clicking through each of these like we did, just click on all. You're going to get a breakdown breakdown, you're going to see all that information pop up right there. But it's very important to always go. I don't care if you're an investor or you're just a regular homeowner that's looking to buy your next property. I think you should always go and check out what these permit sites show you, what you can see for previous records. That's important because if you're not seeing any records yet you're seeing brand new items on the house, that's just something to take note of. Doesn't mean those items were put in the house wrong, but you might want to get some extra information or maybe obtain some receipts from the roofer or say the HVAC tech, whoever it was that did that work. But that's just a quick overview of the permit site, and something I'll say again is that all these permit sites can be different based on the county, the township, or city within those counties. So just be careful when you're searching. There is always a way to search for these. It's very far and few between that you run into counties anymore that don't have online records, especially in the counties that we've been talking about here in Florida. And Palm Beach County being, one of the top 3 largest counties in the state, you're going to be able to get a lot of that information, especially in the bigger towns, online. So I've hopped right back over to the Property Appraiser site. I do think we're about to wrap this up. You can see they got social media hyperlinks on their page. They have all these other navigation links up at the top that I said you can go through if you want to just get extra information. If you actually have to go get something done at the Property Appraiser office, I always recommend you just give them a call first. Make sure it's not something that can be done online and you don't spend a bunch of time waiting there at a physical office. Or if you could have already just come prepared with some forms, for instance, you can always print those out here. Usually you're not having to go in unless you need to go file some sort of exemption or you end up having a problem with something. Otherwise, most things can be done over the phone, over the computer, and some of those things could be something as simple as you already saw, this change of address where they have a form here. Maybe you need to call in and just get the correct specs on your house corrected. Maybe the square footage is off. Maybe the bedroom bathroom count's off. Those are all things that you can reach out to your local property appraiser and they'll be able to take care of for you. And usually with as simple as an email or a phone call, they'll get those things done for you. But that is going to do it for Palm Beach County. I hope you got some good information out of that. As always, if you enjoyed the content, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. Thanks for tuning in. If there's a county that interests you, make sure you throw it in the comments. I'll check it out. And again, this information is all relevant as of August 2023. Thanks for watching.